I know I'm missing the hat and I'm in my office and not my house, but I'm still the LMHC who loves to write, and today let's talk about world building. I know I'm not currently marketing myself as a fantasy author, but fantasy was my bread and butter my whole life. So I know what it's like to do the world building grind. I know you get into those minute, mind-numbing details, creating things that literally no one else cares about nearly as much as you do. But I care, and I want to help. So, have you considered how your world treats psychology? I've picked 6 aspects of psychology that I think you strongly should consider when you're doing your world building. Things that are going to make a difference in your character's cultural contexts. Let's break them down together. The first aspect I want you to consider is emotional expression. What does your world consider to be appropriate emotional expression? On one end of the spectrum, you could have people who wear their hearts on their sleeves, and it's considered acceptable to constantly and openly express exactly what you're feeling. On the other hand of the spectrum, you could have a society that is very stoic and says you should keep your feelings on the inside and communicate in a way that betrays as little as possible, unless it's an absolute necessity, or maybe even not then. Does your world consider emotional expression to be a way to be able to build bonds and engage with your community, or does your society consider an expression of vulnerability? Are there different emotions that are considered acceptable versus unacceptable? Does your culture consider happiness to be something you can openly communicate, but fear is not? Or vice versa, is fear considered acceptable because it communicates a threat of danger that everyone has to be aware of, but happiness is considered frivolous? And then are there specific ways that your culture in your world displays specific emotions? For some reason, the clearest image I have coming to my mind is if you have a werewolf society, that the way they demonstrate their emotion is by howling at the moon. That is a world-building aspect of psychology. The next aspect of psychology I want you to consider in your world building is developmental life stages. Basically, how do the people in your world perceive the changes that you go through from infancy all the way to your twilight years? What ages within that spectrum do they place the most value in? What ages do they honor? What are the expectations to happen between the generations? Like who treats who in what way? What are the ways that they mark adulthood? What are the ways that they know that you are considered adulthood? Is it a number age, or is it a life experience, or some demonstration of capability? What are the expectations for a character's intelligence, emotional intelligence, and experiences at different life stages? Do they expect their children to be innocent and still learning, or do they have some pretty heavy expectations right from the get-go? Do they expect their elders to retire and live a life of comfort, or do they expect them to keep serving the community? And then what stages exactly do they see? Do they have pretty specific stages from infancy to childhood to adolescence to young adulthood to middle adulthood to late adulthood? Or are there fewer stages, more stages? Are the stages blurry? Or do they treat all of their citizens as being of equal standing at all life stages? I find that one hard to believe, but, build your world and sell me on it. Next up, how does the world you're building view intelligence? Does it believe that there is one kind of intelligence, which in our world we call the G factor, or does it believe in multiple intelligences? For example, can you be both book smart and athletic smart and street smart, or art smart? I'm going to do a video on intelligence theories in a little bit where we dive into our current theories a little bit more. Consider what your world considers. Does your world view intelligence as something that is fixed, like you're born to be as smart as you are, or fluid? Are there things in your world that can impact people's intelligence? How is intelligence measured, and how does your community value it? This is getting kind of long, so I'm going to make a part 2. Give me a follow and check out my other videos on how you can use psychology to enhance